Boyfriend left me stranded at a gas station 3 hours from home because I wouldn't let him drive my new car. So I called an Uber and broke up with him. But now his mom is texting me to return his hoodie. I met Sean when I was 24 and he was 26. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue in the middle of summer. I remember he was wearing a band t-shirt that I also liked, and we started talking about music. He seemed really laid back and funny. He told me he was currently between jobs and trying to figure out his next move because his previous workplace had been toxic. I thought that was relatable because I had just left a stressful job myself a year prior. At the time, Sean didn't have a car. He told me his transmission had blown out on his old sedan about 6 months before we met, and he hadn't had the money to fix it, so he sold it for scrap. He was relying on public transportation and rides from friends to get around. I didn't think much of it at the beginning. I had a reliable, albeit older, hatchback that got me from point A to point B. We started dating pretty casually. Since I was the one with the vehicle, I ended up doing most of the driving. If we went to the movies, I drove. If we went to dinner, I picked him up. I didn't mind it. I actually like driving. It gives me a sense of control, and I like listening to my own playlists. Sean seemed to appreciate it too. He would always say thank you and sometimes offer to pay for gas, although he rarely had the cash on him at the time. Things got more serious after about 6 months. Sean moved into an apartment closer to mine, but he still didn't have a car. He had found a job working retail, but the hours were inconsistent. I found myself adjusting my schedule to help him out. I would wake up early to drop him off at work before I went to my own office job. I would pick him up late at night if the buses had stopped running. I started to feel a bit like his caretaker, but I justified it to myself. I thought that's what you do when you care about someone. You help them out. I wanted him to succeed. I wanted him to be able to save money for a car of his own. I helped him look at listings online for used cars. I went with him to test drive a few beaters. There was one specific instance where he almost bought a car, but he didn't have the credit score for the loan. I sat with him at his kitchen table and went through his finances. I helped him make a budget. I showed him where he was overspending on fast food and subscriptions he didn't use. I felt like we were a team, building toward a future where we were equals. Sean was grateful, or at least he seemed to be. He would tell me that I was the best thing that ever happened to him. He said he didn't know where he would be without me. 2 years into the relationship, I got a significant promotion at work. It came with a raise that finally gave me some breathing room. My old hatchback was starting to make weird noises, and the air conditioning had been broken for 2 summers. I decided it was time to treat myself. I had been saving for a down payment on a house, but I decided to divert some of that to get a reliable, safe, and nice vehicle. I did a ton of research. I spent weeks watching YouTube reviews and reading consumer reports. I decided on a brand new SUV. It was white with a tan interior, had heated seats, and a sunroof. It was the first time in my life I had ever bought something brand new. When I brought it home, I was so proud. I drove it over to Sean's place to show him. I thought he would be happy for me. He came out and looked at it, walked around it, and kicked the tires gently. He said it was nice, but then he immediately asked if he could take it for a spin. I hesitated. Sean isn't the best driver. Even when he drove my old hatchback on road trips, he had a heavy foot. He would brake too late. He had been in 3 accidents in his early 20s, all of which were his fault, though he always had a story about how the other person was actually to blame. I told him I wasn't comfortable with anyone else driving it yet because I was still breaking it in. I said I wanted to get used to the dimensions myself first. He looked annoyed, but he let it go. Over the next few months, the car became a point of contention. Sean would make little comments. If I drove us to dinner, he would say, "You're parking too far away, I could have squeezed it in closer." Or if we were on the highway, he would say, "You're going too slow, you should have let me drive." I tried to ignore it. I thought he was just insecure because he still didn't have his own car. He was still driving a very cheap clunker he had finally bought 6 months prior, which broke down constantly. So we usually took my car because it was reliable and comfortable, but I held my boundary. I didn't let him drive my car. I told him that I was paying the insurance, I was paying the note, and I wanted to be the only one behind the wheel. I thought he understood. We planned a trip to visit his family for a reunion. His family lives about 4 hours away in a different state. We were going to stay for the weekend. I was looking forward to it because I liked his mom, or I thought I did, and I wanted to spend time with his cousins who were around our age. The week before the trip, Sean's car broke down again. It was the alternator this time. He didn't have the money to fix it immediately, so obviously we were going to take my car. I was fine with that. I told him I would drive. I looked up the route. I made a playlist. I packed snacks. I got the car washed and vacuumed so it would look nice when we pulled up to his parents' house. The morning we left, Sean came out to the car with his bags. He put them in the trunk and then walked around to the driver's side door. He held his hand out for the keys. I was standing on the passenger side, putting my purse in. I looked at him and asked what he was doing. He said, "I'm driving. It's a long trip, you'll get tired." I told him I was fine. I said I actually wanted to drive because I had just downloaded a new audiobook I wanted to listen to, and I focus better when I'm driving. Also, I just didn't want him driving my car on the interstate. He frowned and dropped his hand, but he walked around to the passenger side. He slammed the door a little harder than necessary when he got in. The first hour of the drive was quiet. I tried to make conversation. I asked him about his cousins. I asked him what food his mom was making. He gave me one-word answers. He was scrolling on his phone, sighing loudly every few minutes. I asked him if something was wrong. Put his phone down and looked at me. He said, "It's just embarrassing, Lauren." I asked him what was embarrassing. He said, "I'm a grown man. I'm sitting in the passenger seat while my girlfriend drives us to see my family. It looks like I'm a child. It looks like you don't trust me." I tried to keep my eyes on the road. I told him that plenty of couples share driving duties or have the woman drive. I told him his family wouldn't care who drove. He said, "My uncles are going to make fun of me. They're going to ask why I'm not driving. It's an ego thing, okay? Can you just respect that?" I felt my stomach tighten. I didn't want to fight in the car, but I also didn't want to give in. I knew how he drove. He tailgated. He sped. My car was my baby. I worked really hard for it. I told him that I understood he felt awkward, but that I preferred driving my own vehicle. I said maybe he could drive when we got closer to the neighborhood if it meant that much to him, but on the highway, I wanted to drive. He didn't say anything. He just stared out the window. We needed to get gas about 2 hours in. We were still about 2 hours away from his parents' house. We stopped at a large travel center off the highway. It was crowded. There were trucks everywhere. I pulled up to the pump. I got out to pump the gas. Sean got out to go into the store to get a drink. I used my credit card, filled the tank, and cleaned the windshield. I was trying to be nice. I was trying to shake off the tension. When Sean came back, he had a soda and a bag of chips. He walked up to me while I was putting the nozzle back. He held his hand out again. He said, "Give me the keys." It wasn't a question this time. It was a demand. I looked at him. I asked him to please stop doing this. I said we were having a nice trip and I didn't want to argue about this again. Sean moved closer. He looked really angry. He said, "I'm not asking, Lauren. I'm driving the rest of the way. I'm tired of you treating me like I'm incompetent. You're not my mother. You don't get to control everything I do." I was taken aback. I told him that this wasn't about being his mother. It was about it being my car that I paid for. He said, "It's our relationship. Everything should be shared. If you don't trust me with your car, then you don't trust me with anything. You treat me like I'm some charity case you picked up. Oh, let me help Sean with his budget. Let me drive Sean around." It's patronizing. I felt like he had slapped me. All those times I helped him, all those mornings I woke up early to drive him to work, he saw that as me being patronizing. I thought I was being a partner. I told him that was unfair. I said I did those things because I loved him. He said, "If you love me, give me the keys, right now. Show me you respect me as a man." I looked at the keys in my hand. Then I looked at my car. Then I looked at him. I saw the look in his eyes. It wasn't love, it was a need for dominance. He wanted to win. I put the keys in my pocket. I said, "No, I'm driving." Sean stared at me for a long second. He laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. He said, "Fine, you want to drive so bad, you can drive alone." I thought he was bluffing. I thought he was just going to go sit in the car and sulk, but he didn't. He turned around and started walking toward the highway entrance ramp. I called his name. I asked him where he was going. He yelled back over his shoulder, "I'm calling my brother. He's coming to get me. Have a nice trip." I stood there by the pump. I watched him walk away. He walked all the way to the edge of the gas station lot and stood by the road. He took his phone out. I didn't know what to do. I got in my car. I sat in the driver's seat. I thought about driving over to him. I thought about begging him to get in. I thought about giving him the keys just to make the fight stop. But then I thought about what he said. He said I treated him like a charity case. He resented my help. He resented my success. I sat there for 10 minutes. He didn't come back. I saw him talking on the phone. I realized then that if I drove over there and let him drive, I would be setting a precedent. I would be saying that he could throw a tantrum and leave me effectively stranded emotionally until I gave in. But then I realized something else. He had my wallet. I had given him my wallet to hold when I went to clean the windshield because I didn't have pockets in my leggings and I didn't want to leave it on the seat. He had put it in his hoodie pocket. I got out of the car. I walked over to where he was standing. He saw me coming and crossed his arms. He had a smug look on his face, like he thought I was coming to surrender the keys. I walked up to him and said, "You have my wallet, give it back." He looked confused. He patted his pocket. He pulled it out. He held it tight. He said, "Give me the car keys and I'll give you the wallet." I couldn't believe it. He was holding my ID and my credit cards hostage. We were 3 hours from home. I felt a cold anger wash over me. I said, "Sean, give me my wallet right now or I'm going to walk into that gas station and ask the police officer I saw getting coffee to come over here." He hesitated. He looked at the gas station building. He saw that I wasn't bluffing. He threw the wallet at me. It hit me in the chest and fell on the ground. He said, "You're crazy. You know that. You're actually psycho." I picked up my wallet. I checked to make sure everything was in it. It was. I looked at him and said, "We're done, Sean." "I'm going home." He laughed again. He said, "You can't go home. We're going to my parents' house. They're expecting us." I said, "No, you are going to your parents' house, apparently. I'm going home." I turned around and walked back to my car. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I got in, locked the doors, and started the engine. I saw him running toward the car as I put it in drive. He was waving his arms. He looked panicked now. I think he realized his brother wasn't actually coming to get him because his brother lived 2 hours away. I pulled out of the gas station. I got on the highway going the opposite direction, back toward our city. I drove for about 10 minutes before I had to pull over because I was crying so hard I couldn't see. I sat on the shoulder of the highway and just sobbed. I felt stupid. I felt used. I felt heartbroken. I checked my phone. I had 15 missed calls from Sean. I had a text that said, "Come back, stop playing games." Another one said, "You're really going to leave me here? Are you serious?" I didn't answer. I blocked his number. I drove the 3 hours home in silence. I didn't listen to my audiobook. I just thought about the last 3 years. I thought about the budget sessions. I thought about the rides. I thought about how he never really said thank you, not properly. When I got home, I felt empty. The apartment felt weird because his stuff was everywhere. His game console was on the TV stand. His shoes were by the door. I called my brother, Chris. Chris has always been protective of me, but he also liked Sean. I told him everything. Chris was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Lauren, he threw your wallet at you." I said yes. Chris said, "Don't let him back in the apartment. Pack his stuff. I'm coming over to help you." Chris came over. We spent the next 3 hours packing Sean's clothes, his books, his games, his toiletries. Put everything in boxes and garbage bags. We put them by the front door. I was exhausted. I didn't know where Sean was. I assumed he eventually got hold of his family or a friend. That night, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Sean using someone else's phone. It said, "I'm at my parents'. My brother had to drive 2 hours to get me. You humiliated me. I hope you're happy. Don't touch my stuff. I'll get it when I come back." I didn't reply. I blocked that number too. 2 days later, Sean came back. He didn't have a key because I had taken his key off his ring weeks ago when he lost his own set and borrowed mine, and I never gave it back properly. I just kept it on the hook. Wait, no, he had a key. I had to get the locks changed. I called the landlord the morning after the incident and told him I had a breakup and needed the locks changed immediately. I paid the fee. So when Sean showed up, his key didn't work. He pounded on the door. I didn't open it. I told him through the door that his stuff was in the hallway of the building. Chris and I had moved it out there an hour before he arrived because I tracked his location on the Snapchat map he forgot to turn off. He yelled for a while. He called me names. Eventually, he took his stuff and left. I thought that was it. I thought I was free. But then the financial reality set in for him. See, I paid for almost everything. I paid the internet bill. I paid for the streaming services. I bought the groceries. Without me, Sean was drowning. He started emailing me. He sent long emails apologizing. He said he was stressed. He said he lashed out because he felt inadequate compared to me. He said he missed me. He said he loved me. I read them, but I didn't respond. I knew that if I responded, I might weaken. I missed him too, in a weird way. The apartment was quiet. I missed having someone to talk to, even if he was grumpy half the time. Then his mom got involved. I had always had a decent relationship with his mom, Karen. She was a bit overbearing, but she seemed to like me. I thought she would understand that her son had messed up. I was wrong. She started texting me about a week after the breakup. At first, it was polite. "Lauren, I'm so sorry to hear about what happened. Sean is devastated." I replied politely. "I'm sorry too, Karen, it just didn't work out." Then she got more aggressive. She texted, "He says you left him stranded at a gas station. That is very dangerous. You could have gotten him killed. I thought you were a responsible girl." I wanted to scream. I typed out a long reply explaining that he threw my wallet at me and tried to steal my car keys, but I deleted it. I just wrote, "He gave me no choice." Then came the Hoodie text. Yesterday, I got a text from Karen. It said, "Sean is missing his favorite gray hoodie, the one with the college logo. He says you kept it. He needs it back. It has sentimental value. Please drop it off at his friend Steve's house today." I looked around my apartment. I hadn't seen a gray hoodie. We had packed everything. I checked my car. It wasn't there. I texted back, I don't have it. We packed all his stuff. She replied instantly. He says you were wearing it the last time he saw you. You were stealing his property. That is petty, Lauren. After you stranded him, the least you can do is return his clothes. He is suffering enough. I realized then that Sean was spinning a completely different story to his mother. In his version, I was the villain who stole his hoodie and left him to die on the side of the road for no reason. I went to my closet. I dug through the back. I found the hoodie. It had fallen behind my hamper. I must have been wearing it a week ago and tossed it there. I held it in my hands. It smelled like him. For a second, I felt a wave of sadness. I remembered when he gave it to me to wear because I was cold at a movie. But then I looked at the text from his mom again. He is suffering enough. I thought about the gas station. I thought about the look on his face when he demanded the keys. I realized that keeping the hoodie or engaging with his mom was just dragging this out. I put the hoodie in a grocery bag. I drove to the post office. I paid $15 to ship it to his parents' house with tracking. I texted his mom a picture of the tracking receipt. I wrote, "It's in the mail. Do not contact me again." I blocked her number. It's been a few weeks now. The silence is settling in. I still have moments where I wonder if I was too harsh. Maybe I should have just let him drive. Maybe it wasn't worth ending a 3-year relationship over a car. But then I get in my car to go to work. I adjust the seat, which is exactly where I left it. I turn on my music. I drive smoothly without anyone critiquing my braking or my parking. And I realized that it wasn't about the car. It was about the fact that he was willing to leave me behind if he couldn't control me. Chris tells me I did the right thing. He says I dodged a bullet. He says Sean was dead weight. I'm starting to believe him. Yesterday, I got an email from Sean. It wasn't an apology this time. It was a request for money. He said his phone bill was due and he was short because he had to pay his brother for gas to pick him up. He asked if I could loan him $50 just for old time's sake. I deleted the email. I went to the grocery store and bought a steak for one. I cooked it for myself. I ate it in peace. I think I'm going to be okay. Update when I wasn't going to update, but things got weirdly complicated and I feel like I need to vent. So after I sent the hoodie back and blocked his mom, I thought that was the end of the parental involvement. I was wrong. 2 days ago, I was at work. I work in a fairly open office plan. The receptionist called me and said there was someone in the lobby to see me. I assumed it was a delivery or maybe a client. I went down to the lobby. It wasn't a client. It was Sean's dad, Jerry. I had only met Jerry a handful of times. He was usually pretty quiet, the kind of guy who sits in the recliner and watches TV while the mom runs the show. He looked uncomfortable. He was holding a coffee cup and shifting his weight from foot to foot. I walked over to him, keeping my distance. I asked him what he was doing here. He said, "Lauren, look, I'm sorry to ambush you at work. Karen wanted to come, but I told her I would handle it." I asked him what there was to handle. I returned the hoodie. I blocked the numbers. "We are done." He sighed. He said, "It's not about the hoodie, it's about the car." My stomach dropped. I asked, "What about my car?" He said, "Sean is telling everyone that you bought that car with joint funds. He says you guys had a savings jar or something and you used his money to put the down payment on it. He says he owns half of it." I stared at him. I literally laughed out loud. I said, "Jerry, Sean barely made rent. I paid for everything. That car is in my name only. The down payment came from my bonus and my personal savings account. Sean didn't contribute a dime." Jerry looked relieved, actually. He nodded. He said, "I figured. The story didn't make sense. Sean said he gave you cash every week to save for it." I told him that Sean was lying. I told him that the only cash Sean ever gave me was occasionally for pizza, and even then, I usually paid. Jerry rubbed his face. He said, "Okay, look, he's in a bad way. He's spiraling. He lost his job because he couldn't get there on time without you driving him. He's back living in our basement." I felt a twinge of guilt, but I pushed it down. I said, "That's not my problem, Jerry." He said, "I know. I know it's not, but Karen is driving me crazy. She thinks you ruined his life. I just wanted to hear your side of the car thing so I can tell her to back off about suing you." "Suing me?" I asked. "Yeah," Jerry said. "She was talking about small claims court to get his investment back, but if there's no paper trail and no investment, I'll shut it down." I told him to please do that. I told him that if they tried to sue me, I would counter-sue for the money he owes me for the last month of utilities and the damage he did to the carpet in the apartment. He spilled bleach on it once and never fixed it. Jerry nodded. He looked at me and said, "You were good for him, Lauren. You made him grow up a little bit. I'm sorry he blew it." He left. I went back to my desk and I was shaking. The idea that Sean would lie about helping pay for the car was so delusional. He really had convinced himself that we were partners in everything, even things he didn't contribute to. I called my bank just to be safe and printed out all the statements showing the down payment transfer came solely from my payroll deposit account. I made a folder. I'm ready if they try anything. I also called the building management and asked them if they could make sure Sean isn't allowed in the building at all, even if buzzed in by someone else. They said they would put his photo at the front desk. I'm exhausted. It feels like he's haunting me. Update 2, it's been about 3 months since the breakup. I wanted to give one final update because I think I finally got the closure I needed, even though it didn't come in the way I expected. I haven't heard from Sean's parents again, so I assume Jerry talked some sense into Karen. No lawsuit, no small claims court. However, last weekend, I ran into Sean. I was at the grocery store, the one we used to shop at together. I turned the aisle into the pasta section, and there he was. He looked rough, he had gained weight, he hadn't shaved. He was wearing sweatpants that looked stained. He was staring at the macaroni and cheese boxes. I tried to turn around before he saw me, but he looked up. "Lauren," he said. I froze. I didn't want to cause a scene. I said, "Hi, Sean." He walked over to me. He didn't look angry anymore. He just looked defeated. He said, "I didn't know you still shopped here." I said, "I live down the street. It's my grocery store." He nodded. He looked at my cart. It was full of healthy food, vegetables, chicken. His basket had frozen pizzas and soda. He said, "I'm staying at Steve's place for a few days. My parents kicked me out." I didn't ask why. I didn't want to know, but he told me anyway. "My mom and I got into a fight," he said. "She kept trying to control everything I did. She wanted to manage my unemployment checks." I told her to back off and she flipped out. She threw me out. The irony was palpable. He hated his mom for controlling him, yet he had accused me of the same thing when I was just trying to help him. And now he was realizing that maybe I wasn't the controlling one after all. He looked at me and said, "I messed up, Lauren. I know that now. I shouldn't have tried to take the car. I felt small. You had the new job, the new car, the apartment. I had nothing." I wanted to feel like I was in charge of something. It was the first time he had ever been honest about his feelings. Not angry, just honest. I looked at him and I didn't feel hate. I didn't feel love either. I just felt pity. I said, "I appreciate you saying that, Sean, but it's too late. You scared me that day. You threw my wallet at me." He flinched. "I know, I'm sorry. I really am." He looked at me like he was waiting for me to say, "It's okay, come home." He was waiting for me to fix it like I always did. He was waiting for me to offer him a ride or buy his groceries or tell him how to fix his life. I took a deep breath. I said, "I hope you figure things out, Sean. I really do." And then I walked past him. I didn't offer him a ride. I didn't give him money. I finished my shopping, went to my car, my clean, beautiful, reliable car, and I drove home. I sat in the car for a minute in my driveway. I thought about how for 3 years I had been carrying him. I had been the engine of our relationship. Now I'm just driving myself, and the ride is so much smoother. I'm dating again, casually, just coffee dates. I met a guy last week who has his own car and his own business. He picked me up. He opened the door for me. It felt weird but nice. I don't know what will happen next, but I know I'm never going to let anyone make me feel guilty for my success again. Thanks for reading.